Recording is in progress. Good. Okay. And we will be using social media. So please join us using this handle here, hashtag lunchtime ESOL. And we are now on Blue Sky. So please do post on Blue Sky if you have that. It's a new social media outlet for us. And this is the ESOL and Literacy Soapbox Discussion Forum. It's an extension of the session that we held in February, on February the 3rd. This is an opportunity for people to talk about things further, the theme of the session that we held in February. So we look forward to you taking part. This is what we're going to cover. We're going to say hello and have a couple of updates from Mesh and Migration Yorkshire. We're just going to look very briefly at what was covered in the February session on ESOL and literacy. I sent out the recording of that session, so you might have had an opportunity to sort of reprise it already. But just in case you didn't, I'll just go through it a little bit. Then we've got our soapbox section, and this is for anyone really from the region who wants to talk about things related to the theme, to just have 5 minutes to show a couple of slides and demonstrate ideas or practices that they engage in around our current theme, which is ESOL and literacy. And then we're looking for, from about halfway through, to just open it up as a discussion forum, to just give some air to the topic of ESOL and literacy and let you express your ideas and thoughts around this issue before we finish at 1:30. So I will proceed and hand over to Safina, who's going to just give a couple of updates from us at Mesh.
Thank you, John. I'm just going to share my screen.
Oh, I need to stop sharing. Okay.
It's fine. I've done it. I can overwrite you. Is that sharing? The website?
Nearly. Yes.
Yes. Perfect. Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Safina. I'm one of the ESOL development workers. So I'm going to provide a quick update on LEYH and LE Plus website. I'm not sure if everyone is familiar with LEYH. Basically, LEYH is a website where it's for learners to find English classes in their area. And there's a section also where learners can actually access for information and guidance around ESOL reading books, going to university, volunteering resources. So there's lots of useful information there for learners. As we continue to support our learners, it's really essential that we keep the class information accurate and up to date. So it's just a reminder to providers out there to check that all your class details are correct. And if they're not, the ESOL development workers in your area are available for support. So if you've got any questions or you need to get in touch, just get in touch with us and we're happy to help. I'm just going to go to the next section, which is LE Plus. So you can find LE Plus at the top of the screen here. So if I click on LE Plus website. Okay. So this part of the website is our sister site. And it's designed to support tutors and volunteers regarding training opportunities, news events, teaching resources. As we're on the topic of literacy, I just wanted to show you the literacy resources that we've actually created in the Resource Hub. So if you click on the Resource Hub, you'll actually get, you can go down, and the way to get the actual resources themselves is you can put in the keywords. You can put literacy in, select literacy, and then click on the apply filter button. And what you'll find here is a list of resources around literacy. that tutors and volunteers can use in their classroom, anyone that they're supporting. So there's a citizen literacy app that they can go through. There's some readers. Let's click on one of them. So if you actually click on the link, it'll take you, oh, that one's not working. So that's something to flag up. Let's go back. See if the next link works. Yeah, so there's information around that, around literacy. So you will find things that are useful for yourselves. If there are any resources that you think that we could add on there, please get in touch and let us know. And if there's any questions at this point, I'm happy to answer any. But please feel free to search through the resource app in regards to literacy resources. And I'm going to pass you over to Emma now, if there's no questions.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Safina. And I apologise, everyone. There's a lot of building noise going on in the background. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Is somebody able to just share the slide with the Migration Yorkshire links on? That would be amazing. So I just briefly wanted to introduce myself. I think I know most of the people here, but I think there might be a few people that I've not met. So my name's Emma Taylor. And I'm the ESOL regional lead, and I work for Migration Yorkshire. So Migration Yorkshire is what's called the Strategic Migration Partnership for Yorkshire and the Humber. So we work with the 15 different local authorities across Yorkshire and Humber, supporting them with all things migration. And across the UK, there's 11 SMPs who support all of the different local authorities in the UK. And we connect together as well and share best practice. So I've got equivalent ESOL regional leads in all of those different areas. So one of the things that I do as part of my role is work really, really closely with MESH, and we're always trying to ensure that we're providing the best networks possible for ESOL managers, practitioners, tutors, anyone involved in ESOL, because we recognise how challenging it can be to work in ESOL. And I just quickly wanted to draw your attention to a couple of links here that you'll be able to click on when you get the PowerPoint slides, just to highlight a few other resources there. You've got our website there, Migration Yorkshire, and it's got lots of different sections on it. So we've got lots of teams, an asylum team, a research team, a Ukraine team, a Hong Kong team, so on and so on. So if there's any information you need, regionally or locally, you can go and you can have a look on our website, and if you can't find anything, we're usually happy to pull things together for you. I also just wanted to highlight a couple of toolkits that we've got on there. We've got our ESOL for Refugees toolkit, which is well worth looking at. Lots of case studies from across the region, and also nationally. And also a more recent toolkit for needs analysis and placement. So do please have a look at those, but also please do get in touch with me. You've got my email address there if you feel like you want to be further linked in. Okay, thank you so much. So I think I'm not sure who I'm passing on to now. John, is it you or someone else?
It's me. Thanks, Emma. And I'm just going to reprise what we did on the 3rd of February on ESOL and Literacy to kick us off. This is what the session was due to explore: literacy in the ESOL classroom for people with limited or no literacy in their home language, which is recognized as a challenge for all ESOL practitioners, really. So it was that we wanted to address, and it was in response to lots of people saying that they would like to explore that in a lunchtime showcase. So we had a couple of speakers at that session. This was our agenda on the 3rd of February. We had Kathy Clarkson from Bradford College, and we had Lucy Palmer from Wakefield College, and they gave quite different presentations, actually, I think. So I wanted to just spend a couple of minutes just going over what they covered. So first of all, Kathy Clarkson who was looking at the courses available both as ITE, that's initial teacher education, and as CPD, which can lead people into ESOL teaching, which they deliver a few of those at Bradford College, in fact. And as part of her presentation, she drew attention to the proximity of ESOL training to literacy training. They kind of often go together either in ITE or in CPD as well. And when she did that, she reminded us that literacy training is pitched primarily as English language training, which is for first language speakers. So English is the first language. And that is kind of framed by the focus on functional skills and GCSE and the movement towards them. So lots of people that are literacy teachers actually engage in teaching either the functional skills program or to GCSE English. And of course, that level of English or literacy, if you like, is a level which is often beyond the level that many ESOL learners are beginning their ESOL journey. They're starting at entry level and they're working towards functional skills and or GCSE training. And in fact, when you look in FE colleges and other areas at functional skills and GCSE classes, then often they're actually populated by ESOL learners who have actually come through the entry level system and ended up there. So it's a kind of reminder, really, that when people talk about literacy, there's a distinction to be made between that kind of idea of literacy as English as a first language training and the idea of literacy as basic skills, that is literacy teaching for those who are struggling to read and to form words, to form sentences, and so on. So that's an interesting distinction that's there in the sort of frameworks of teacher education and development. Another issue that Kathy raised was around participatory approaches to learning and ESOL. And she advocated that participatory approaches are useful, particularly because of the idea that literacies are always socially situated. So rather than talking about literacy in the singular, her emphasis was on the idea of multiple literacies, because literacy is socially situated, it is always diverse. So it kind of makes sense to contextualize it, to let the learner in to the development of classroom approaches, which of course is what participatory approaches do. So she drew our attention to ETF resources around learners that are new to ESOL. And there's a URL on the screen there which you can go to, and in fact those resources are kind of interesting things to look at. So I just picked out a couple of slides from those resources to show you. One which is emphasizing that idea of socially situated literacy that always links literacies to their social context. And then another one which is just giving some top tips of how you can build that contextualization into your planning for classes. So there's actually a whole course, if you like, on how to deliver teaching in the ESOL classroom if you do have literacy learners within your group. So the ETF resources are a really good place to look for that kind of thing, is Kathy's suggestion. So one issue that emerged from Kathy's presentation was that issue of participatory approaches and how we might uh, enable more participation in the classroom. She had made the point that for the ITE trainees, it was very challenging to build this in. So perhaps it's better to get some experience as a teacher before you start engaging in these approaches. But that's an open question, which I'll leave with you. We then progressed on to a very different presentation from Lucy Palmer of Wakefield College. Lucy had been teaching pre-entry ESOL learners for about 3 years and presents phonics really as an alternative to the participatory approach. It appeared from these two presentations being set next to each other. So her classes are generally 16 to 18-year-olds. So one question we might ask in relation to the phonics materials that she presented in her presentation is how well that kind of approach might work with adults. Another question you might think about for the discussion. But some of her suggestions I've just put up on the slide here. For example, she suggested that shorter, more frequent sessions are better than having big chunks of learning time. So if you can spread learning out over sort of 4 or 5 mornings in a week, it's going to be helpful. It provides more opportunities for learners to actually engage in social situations where they can practice their English with each other. Lucy then talked about flashcards, which she uses to build confidence with recognizing sounds and blending in the classroom. She recommended using photographs rather than cartoon images because with older learners, like the 16 to 18-year-olds and by inference adults as well, these were better pitched and elicited more from learners than things which might be seen as age inappropriate. Lucy also introduced us to a whole range of other resources, from phonics blocks to tablets at the high end, I suppose, and the Jolly Phonics app, to more sort of prosaic things like mini whiteboards and reading books of various sorts. So there's a lot of material in there which you might go back to and look at in that recording to refresh your memory of it. But key issues that were raised by the presentation of those resources were around the cost. So if you're working in the third sector, can you afford these kind of resources? What's more realistic for you if you are working in that sector, or indeed in colleges with quite hard-pressed budgets as well? And also we need to think about that idea of age appropriateness. Things like the Twinkle website, some of their handouts may not be appropriate for adults. Lucy talked about Play-Doh, so using Play-Doh in the classroom, which is really good for motor skills. We need to think about that in the adult classroom as well as things like the Jolly Phonics app. So I will just leave it at that as a sort of reprise of things that we looked at in the previous session, and I will pass on to our first soapbox entry, which is from Claire Jackson of Sunflower ESOL, and by coincidence also a mesh development worker. So Claire, over to you.
Thanks, John. Hi, everybody. It's really good to be able to talk about some things that I do in my own teaching today. So I wanted to just tell you about this resource that I discovered quite a lot of years ago. And I use it a lot with my beginner learners, and you can find it at that address there, esolliteracy.co.uk. It's called the Lisa Carlson ESOL Literacy Resource. John, would it be possible to just stop sharing the screen for a minute, please? Thank you. So this resource, as I say, is something that I bought a few years ago, And I keep coming back to it. It is still available. It is expensive. It costs £70. But I think in terms of an investment for teaching, it's been very useful. I just want to show you some different things that it has. It's a really comprehensive resource. One of the things it has is alphabet sort of wall chart size letters. So this one, each letter of the alphabet is numbered as well. So this is a number 1. And for each letter, there are some pictures. So we've got apple, we've got arm, and we've got animals for A. But the thing I like about the pictures is, as John's just been talking about, they are age appropriate. They're not cartoons, they're photographs. And so this alphabet is produced as a wall chart, so you could actually have it up if you were teaching somewhere where you're there all the time. But I really like using this, just putting all the letters out on the table and then giving people the pictures, and they've got to match them to the correct letter. And I often find with beginner learners, actually getting them to physically move what they're learning rather than just thinking can be really helpful. In the introduction to the resource, there's lots of there's some information about handwriting. She provides you know that paper you used to have when you were little that has sort of lots of lines, and you've got to get your main part of the letter, and then you've got the bit for the ascender and the descender. She gives you a piece of that, which is really useful. Where can you find that these days? So that's something that I often photocopy. I'm just going to share my screen with you because I want to show you a couple of things. She just produced, she's got the alphabet in a really clear format. That, I mean, I use that all the time. It's really helpful. And then, as you can see on the right hand side of the screen there are various files within the resource. And the second file focuses on the learner learning their name and address. And if you're familiar with the language experience model, she sort of gives you a structure to be able to do language experience with the learners. And this is often something that I start with my beginner learners, because it's really important that they can read and write their name and address. How many times as a learner are you asked for your address, filling in forms, registering at the doctor, all this sort of thing? So there are some really practical things here that she provides. And then the last thing I just want to show you is this. This is a little example of sort of the progression really of the work. So she gives you some nice comprehensive instructions of how to use the things that she's produced. This file is about learning the days of the week. So you've got, again, some really nice clear, can you see that, by the way? Yeah, great. You've got some really nice clear, a nice clear font there with the A in the appropriate format for learning to write it. And then what she has, she has these little booklets that you print out and make. And the first copy of the booklet has no writing. It's just pictures. And the idea is that you introduce, this is Kumar, this is his daughter. You introduce the vocabulary just by speaking and listening, hearing it first. Kumar's playing football. He cleans the house. And then the second version of the book has the text with it. And then right at the end of the resource, she gives you the sentences. And obviously I'm just going through this very quickly, but you can guess, can't you? You're going to, you get the student is going to have the book without the writing, and then you can cut out these strips of paper and they've got to match them to the correct picture. So again, sort of not quite the language experience, but a very similar idea. They haven't produced the language themselves, but they're taking the language and they're physically putting it on the right page. And then once they've got them all in the right place, they can then write them out onto the right page, practicing handwriting. So yeah, it's a resource that I come back to a lot. It doesn't cover everything. There are some things that it doesn't have, but there is lots there that I, as a sort of a teacher of people with beginner, you know, really beginning in their literacy journey, some really useful stuff there that I find really helpful. So I'm just a little bit aware of time, so I'll stop there and hand over to Angela.
Thank you, Claire. Hello, everybody. So I just wanted to start by telling you a little story that will probably be quite familiar to several of you, if not all. So quite a few years ago, when I moved over from teaching EFL and groups of EFL learners, I moved over to ESOL, and I was given a mixed level class from pre-entry to entry 2 of ESOL learners, and kind of didn't realize until I got into the class that quite a lot of the learners, and it didn't matter which level they were, quite a lot of them had literacy needs. And that ranged from never having held a pencil before and not being able to form letters and not being able to read or write in their own languages to being literate in their languages and just having literacy needs in English, never having kind of learned the alphabet and formed the alphabet and written things. So I was put into this class and I had literally no idea what to do with the learners with literacy needs. It was a reading class and there was an exam at the end of it. And the entry 1 and entry 2 learners were going to need to pass that exam at the end. And I kind of needed to teach them to read first. So I was looking around in panic. I spent hours and hours and hours making my own resources, making alphabet cards, making all sorts of things, because I'd looked and kind of hadn't really found very much. And then I don't think it would be an exaggeration to say Scotland actually saved my life. So somebody told me about the AQA Scottish Literacy Framework. Now, the reason the picture up there is Natekla Scotland is that they've gathered together literacy resources. And one of those is the literacy framework that I want to show you. So, John, if you would click through on the picture, it takes you to the Natekla Scotland website. And there's a whole bit about ESOL literacies there. So if you scroll down, the first thing they've done is Natekla Scotland themselves have actually produced some readers. Oh, sorry, I'm not on the right bit. Okay, scroll down, you'll see the first one is the SQA ESOL literacy materials. So if you click through to that, these are the ones that somebody told me about years ago and that I found and were just really, really helpful. So it's by topic. Has the screen gone really dark, or is that just because I'm on my phone? Can everybody see that?
It has gone dark, Angela. I wonder if John just needs to click the accept. Is there a cookies thing at the bottom? If you just accept the cookies, John, that might make it clearer.
Can you see that, John?
Sorry, it's just like a number of things are in the way of it at the moment. Ah, got it. Okay, there we go.
There you go. So you'll see that it's by topic. So we've got, it starts out with alphabets and alphabet and numbers and some phonics, and then it goes on to daily life, food and drink, free time and leisure, and it's a whole curriculum of different topics. If you just click on the daily life one, John, it just shows what's there. So it's a whole pack that runs you through from letter level to word level to sentence level. So at the beginning, it says the activities and where you can find them. But if you keep scrolling down, so it starts with kind of words and picture matching, and then you put the words into sentences, and then you build the sentences up into a paragraph, which you read and then you write. And this is for each topic. And I just found it really systematic and really helpful. And also parts of it were the kind of thing, because I was dealing with a multi-level class, the worksheets were quite self-explanatory, and they were the kind of thing where I could give a group that activity to do and they could get on with it. And then I could come back to them, because I was obviously like a crazy chicken running around that class all the time. So it was a real lifesaver, and I fully recommend it to anybody else who's in that situation, even not teaching multi-level classes, but having literacy learners with those needs. It's a really good pack, and it's all completely free, downloadable, printable, freely available. So John, if you could go back to the NATECLA site now, the NATECLA website. And just in the little bits, there's one about ESOL readers. Just go back up again to the black bit. ESOL literacy readers, yeah. So NATECLA Scotland themselves have now produced some readers which are freely available. And you can click through to see all the different ones, but you can see a little thumbnail because we're running out of time. So lots of different titles, all readers that are available and helpful for literacy learners. And again, free to access. So it's just a brilliant resource, and it's available, it's there, and really usable. So that's what I wanted to show you. Thank you. I'll pass back to John.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Angela. Great. Okay. So we are going to go on. So this is called a soapbox and a forum. That was the soapbox part, where people just shared some ideas of things that they use in the classroom. And now we are moving to the discussion part, where hopefully some of the things that you've been observing and listening to over the last 30 minutes will have stimulated your own ideas and help you to think about your own experiences of addressing literacy in the classroom, in the ESOL classroom. I'm going to hand over to Emma now to facilitate this discussion. Yeah, Emma.
Thank you so much, John. So first of all, I just want to see, does anybody want to come in with any questions or comments initially, or any of your own ideas following on from John's review of the lunchtime showcase, or perhaps any questions or comments from the resources that Claire and Angela have been talking about, even if you have or haven't used them or think they might be useful for you?
I think the resources that have just been shared are so useful, and it's brilliant to see that they're they're things that we can use with adults rather than sort of Googling manically to see what you can find on phonics and literacy, and it's all sort of schools based and children based. So these resources are brilliant and really useful. Thank you so much for sharing.
That's great. Thanks, Lindsay. And I think it's really important, isn't it? Because you can just go down an absolute rabbit hole when you're looking for particular resources. So at least if you know that you've got like 2 starting points to look for, then you're a lot more likely to find what you need. And both Claire and John have sort of raised that issue, that making sure that it's really important that the resources are adult appropriate. Which it's a really difficult one, isn't it? Because a lot of the things that you find will be quite child based. So I suppose that's a good discussion point, really, in terms of the risks when you're addressing literacy in the adult classroom of really patronizing learners and infantilizing them. I don't know if anyone's got any questions or comments or any ways that you've managed to avoid doing that and make your lessons adult appropriate. John, would it be okay if we stop sharing the screen so I can kind of see everyone together? That's amazing, thank you. Okay.
I think using the real photos and everyday scenarios is really useful. We don't want to spend ages reinventing the wheel and making all these resources, but if these are free to use and accessible, that will save so much time, and they look really good.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And does anyone? Yeah, Jem, go ahead.
Yeah, just on that point, one of the things which Lucy shared with us was that thing of using Play-Doh in the classroom, like to help with motor skills and kind of forming letters, and then from the letters to the words. And she really advocated that as an outlet for creativity, really, and something for people to strengthen their hand muscles, actually, which is important for writing, obviously. And I on the one hand, I kind of think, yeah, that's really great. And you could see the pictures in the presentation of the learners, sort of enjoying that. But they were 16 to 18-year-olds. And I just wondered if anyone had any experience of using something like Play-Doh in the adult classroom, and whether it also works in that context.
Yeah, the class that I had were adults, John, and Play-Doh was really helpful. And I never had I wouldn't say there was ever an adverse reaction, like, why are we playing with Play-Doh? It was always kind of a little bit of joy and like, oh, we get to do this now. And it actually promoted quite a lot of conversation as well. So I actually think you can be too worried about that. If you know your learners and you know you're not going to get people who are going to be really kind of upset by things like that, I think go for it. It is a really useful tool for building that motor skills. Yeah.
And I suppose it ties into what Claire was saying about you're getting people moving and sort of using their bodies, and you can often that really works well with a lot of different learning styles, so it can be a really nice thing to do. Okay, that's great. Okay.
In the chat, Louise says short burst phonics sessions leading to shared reading experiences using the acquired phonics is a sensible approach. And resources like Jolly Phonics are good for mixed level classes. That's what Louise said.
Yeah, that's.
Can I just add on to the creative side of the pre-entry learners? Because I used to teach a class where it was a class of ladies pre-entry who were illiterate in their own language, so they never had picked up a pen. So we used to do a 5-minute session of just colouring mandalas, just to build up their fine motor skills. And then I'd do a break outside in the playground where we would actually just play catch to get sort of the motor skills. So it's the practical elements of it for pre-entry learners I find is more useful. And sort of being real life practical experiences. And we'd had fun. I think it's about having fun with the learners as well, so that it breaks them out of their norm and the comfort zones, because a lot of these ladies hadn't probably played ball, but it was fun. And then getting the language in that as well, and calling each other and asking questions. So building on that really, I think, is really important as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry. I think sometimes when learners haven't had much experience of writing and picking up a pencil, it can be really intimidating, which I think is where the whiteboards come in really well, because you rub it out as soon as you make a mistake, or even taking it down to a level where you've got trays with sand in, and people can making it really tactile and making it memorable and writing the sand. People like finding their inner child. It doesn't have to be seen as babyish. It's fun and engaging. It makes it, really tactile and memorable.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And I suppose all of those ideas that you just mentioned are kind of breaking down barriers and making people have fun in the classroom, which are hopefully going to mean that they feel comfortable making mistakes. Because I think there's a lot of that sort of fear, isn't there, when we're addressing literacy in the classroom with people that maybe haven't told anyone about their literacy skills, or feel really embarrassed about their literacy skills. So it can often take a while for the ESOL tutor to actually ascertain what the skills are, or the lack of skills are in their classroom. So something like that can be really lovely to for the teacher to find out what everyone knows. Okay, that's great. So one of the things that often comes up in comments from our sessions, or things that comes up from ESOL tutors in the area when we're talking about literacy, is also other learning needs. And the difficulty in the ESOL classroom sometimes of addressing different SEND issues with adults who've come from diverse cultural backgrounds. I wondered if anyone had any experience of that, or any ideas or suggestions about addressing different learning needs.
We had a question a while ago, didn't we, Emma, about how you can get a diagnosis of dyslexia for an ESOL learner, and how difficult that is. And was it you who knew of somebody who did tests, or that there was somebody who said they knew of a testing system, but
It
that
was
it's quite
me,
difficult
Angela.
to access?
But it's somebody who was at NATECLA conferences in the past, and she's based in the Northwest. And can I remember her name or find her? I was hoping that like on the NATECLA forum, somebody might remember who it was. But yeah, she was somebody who specifically has designed a whole, program of diagnosing people, particularly with dyslexia, who are ESOL learners. So something that's really, really important to know as early as possible, in terms of somebody's learning journey.
And it is a massive issue, really, because so much of the existing frameworks in FE, as in school environments, I think, is quite culturally specific. So actually, being able to carry through that diagnosis for an ESOL learner can be a really challenging thing. Both for the framework and for the learner as well, of course. So having things which are specifically designed for ESOL learners, I think, would be so useful. And perhaps that's something, Claire, which we need to pursue to try to ensure that that's if there are anything accessible to practitioners in our region, they can sort of come to it through the Mesh websites. But some other people might have experience of this who are here. Anybody?
I've just put some stuff in chat that I reached out to because I had a query about this. And Kathy Clarkson has just sent me some links, which I'm putting in the chat as we speak.
That's the woman, and Margaret Smith, who I was talking
Brilliant.
So NATECLA have done a video. So there's a video that I've just shared in chat in regards to that. And there's another link that I'm going to put in there as well.
That's fantastic. Thanks very much, Safina. Apologies, I've got my building noise back again. But yeah, I think the point that John made about the kind of the cultural understanding and cultural appropriacy of kind of effectively giving people a diagnosis, and that could be something that's really not welcome or not understood. So there's a lot of sensitivities for the ESOL tutor there. Okay. But yeah, that's really interesting. I was wondering if any of you here in the group have a chance to learn from or to collaborate with any colleagues who deliver literacy classes, or if you deliver any literacy classes yourself, if anyone wants to come in. Okay, so it's always interesting to hear about the collaboration between ESOL and literacy. Okay, so one of the things that Mesh and Migration Yorkshire are always trying to really prioritise is our oh, perfect, Louise. I was just about to talk about our ESOL networks, our multi-agency ESOL networks. And Louise has just put in the chat that they're using their local ESOL network to share practice around embedding literacy and phonics with conversation classes. And I was literally just going to ask how our multi-agency groups and our ESOL networks and forums can support organisations and practitioners with the literacy strategies. So that sounds fantastic. I don't know if you want to say any more about that, Louise, or if anyone else wants to come in with any ideas or anything that their ESOL networks are doing.
It's we're at a very early stage with it, Emma. We're just setting up our subgroups in our next meeting, one of which is looking at quality of teaching and learning and how we can use the experience within the network from our ESOL providers and how it can support other agencies. So it's very early stages, but that's the intention. If you can offer any support or any advice around that, Emma, it would be very welcome.
That's great. Thanks, Louise. And I'll look forward to seeing how those subgroups develop. Sorry, John, do you want to come in?
Which network is that, Louise?
That's in Rotherham.
Rotherham, right. Cool.
Yeah, we're in the very early stages of our ESOL network. And it was initially started by the Community and Migration Services within Rotherham Council. But now I'm chairing the network and I sit within the employment and skills team. So it has started to take more of a skills and ESOL provision focus, but we still have those wider services as part of the network.
Emma, can I say something about yeah, just building on that. Thanks, Louise. I mean, I think networks are a really important a factor in supporting practitioners to actually be able to deliver kind of solid literacy training for ESOL learners, but partly because it's so challenging, and as Angela said, sometimes you can feel a bit kind of overwhelmed and alone when you're addressing these big challenges, but also because a lot of, not all, but a lot of the resources around literacy are quite expensive. So when Lucy did her presentation, there were lots of things that she presented, like had iPads, for example, and phonics blocks, which she was able to draw on the college budget to buy, which just wouldn't be there available to people that are working in the third sector. Of course, some resources like Play-Doh and mini whiteboards are really, really cheap. So pretty much anyone can sort of acquire those. But I was just thinking that like networks could be really important because they could enable a sharing within a particular locality, so that the learners across that locality are supported. So if the local college does have, substantive resources around literacy, then perhaps there's a way for them to actually share those resources with some of their third sector partners in the network, to facilitate learning in those environments as well.
Yeah, that's a really good idea, John. Apologies, my building noise is really ramped up now. I've just wondered, just in the last few minutes of the discussion, if anyone has been dealing with ESOL and literacy needs in online teaching at all, because I think most of what we've covered has talked about face-to-face.
I do quite a bit of online one-to-one sessions, and I think being able to share the screen and share resources and use a whiteboard right work really well. access the digital means to join. It works really well, especially one-to-one for additional support.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Lindsay. Sorry, I'll pass over to you, John.
Yeah, I can also speak to that experience of doing sessions online going back to the pandemic, really. And actually, the thing which I found really, really useful was mini whiteboards within that environment, because you can lend those to your learners. And they can, it's very easy on the screen to actually hold something up like that so that people can see it, and then you can move on to the next activity like that. So it leads to a very dynamic kind of online kind of session if you've got that kind of capacity to share something like that with a learner, so that they can do that writing directly for you and the other people in the group, and share it in that way. It's much better somehow than paper, where the lines are much more difficult to see on a screen, really. So yeah, very cheap but simple, but seem to be effective.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much, John. Thanks, everyone. There's been some really good suggestions and ideas there. And it's really nice to hear what other people are doing. And yeah, thank you for all those points. John, can I pass over to you now? Because I'm really struggling to hear what everyone's saying. But yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks so much, Emma. Despite that challenge, it was great to hear all those different points within the discussion. So thank you so much for managing that despite the challenges. So we're going to wrap up in a minute. Does anyone have anything which they'd like to add to this discussion about ESOL and literacy that's occurred to them in the last few minutes?
Yeah, John, can I just share these readers that I know, Angela, those Scottish readers looked really good. Something that I struggle with my group is having access to iPads. I don't, that's not something that I've got, but I have, again, I invested a while ago in these. This is the new EastEnders series. I know that's not a great picture there on the screen, but again, they're little readers. I think there's 6 of them in the series, and they're sort of hand-drawn pictures. I don't know how well you can see that really, but they're again, they're sort of focused on they're designed for adults. So just another little resource, the new EastEnders series, and they're actually available from Gatehouse Books. I'll just put the website into the chat.
Just to follow on that, if Claire's sharing readers, we've got some digital e-reading books on our website, some resources that we've actually created for exploring and belonging, that could be used in the classroom as well. So you could check them out from the website.
Yeah, thanks, Sabina. And another resource which I just came across recently, and many of you might have seen it on the JISC ESOL research discussion group, Dave Butler's resources on literacy, which and he's got a couple of videos actually, which he's created around strategies for reading and delivering reading and writing sessions, which by coincidence use books that he has created. So there would be a cost implication there, but actually looking at the videos, they're kind of short, like 10, 15 minute videos, is quite interesting and give you lots of ideas for ways forward. So I will just share his YouTube channel with you in case you didn't see that message that just came yesterday, I think, on the ESOL research discussion group. Okay, so Mary's put the exploring and belonging reading up there. Great. Okay, so if that's that, I need to just share with you. Oh God, I'm in the wrong place. Hold on. I need to come here. Whoops. Apologies. Okay. Yes. So it just remains for me to say thank you for coming. Please either follow this QR code, or I think Safina is putting the URL in the chat to our evaluation form for this session, which we would be very grateful if you would complete. It won't take you longer than 3 or 4 minutes. And we're particularly interested in your views this time, because this is the first time we've done this kind of continuation session on from a previously thematically focused lunchtime showcase. So we'd like to hear from you how you think, how useful you thought it was, and how you thought we might develop it for future sessions. So please do follow that link to fill the evaluation form for us, and I will stop sharing that. Thank you so much for attending, and at 1:30 we'll draw this session to a close with thanks for your attendance, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you, everybody.